Welcome to WoodTalk, crafting artisanal sawdust since 2007. Now here are your hosts, Marc, Shannon, and Matt.
Oh my gosh, welcome to the show, everybody. It's show number 582, and those of you who aren't watching the video version are missing quite a treat here. You got Matt dressed up like a Woodcraft hobo, and then Shannon looks like he's going to sell me car insurance and ask me to go golfing.
Seriously, the golf shirt doesn't quite work. One of these three is not like the other.
No, and me, I just look like someone who refuses to admit he's almost 50. So there's that.
We're not all
do what you got to do. All right. Well, on today's show, we're talking about tear out on cherry, stock prep, time savings, and there's bugs in my nutwood. Bugs in my nutwood. All right. Well, all that and more.
If you're going to read that or not.
Well, I'm going to read it. All that and more coming up. But first, we want to let you know that WoodTalk is proudly sponsored by Woodcraft. That's right. Woodcraft is the leading authority in woodworking, making, and creating. They have the tools, supplies, expertise, and hands-on classes to inspire woodworkers, makers, and creators, and empower creativity at every level. Learn more at woodcraft.com. And this is interesting. We got a question from Von Welch. Put a question right here in the intro. How can we show Woodcraft that we appreciate them supporting the show? I think in the future, we'll have other things, other campaigns, newsletter stuff that you could do, maybe even a discount code. I don't know. We'll have to talk to Woodcraft about that. I think for now, doing your shopping there. If you need some stuff, you need to pick up some glue, get it from them. And then when you do it, let them know that WoodTalk sent you, as they say.
Yeah.
Pick it up from your local store.
Get a Woodtalk tattoo, like right on your forehead when you go to shop at Woodcraft.
Yeah.
Or wear a Woodtalk t-shirt when you go shop at Woodcraft. Do that.
They have some nice t-shirts too. We got a few that were just too big. Oh, Shannon, I meant to ask, so Matt has his dad's shirt on. Shannon, did your shirt fit?
And I say this with the utmost respect. It was a little Tommy McDonald on me.
Oh, so yours is snug.
Really?
Mine is loose, and Matt's is loose. Oh, well, maybe we combine our situations and we'd all fit.
Three sizes too big.
It fits fine, but it makes me feel like I have much bigger biceps than I ever will have. It's really tight in the sleeves, so I feel, who's better than me? That's what I want to do.
You just need to stop working out so much, and this wouldn't be a problem.
That must be it. Yeah. That's definitely it. Yeah, endurance cyclist. We are stacked on top. Let me tell you,
the string bean arms. Well, and of course, you know what, guys? The show is also sponsored by the generous contributions of people like you, our listeners. So if you'd like to help us out, Matt's going to tell you a little bit more.
I mean, you can basically stole the whole thing from me there. I don't know what else to say now. If you want to help support the show, like Marc alluded to, you can absolutely totally do so. You can go to patreon.com/woodtalk and sign up to become a patron of the show.
Huzzah!
This episode, we're thanking Ben Price, Gary Hoochin-Miller, David Marshall, Cody Olson, and Gary Zumwalt.
Fantastic.
And
that's a class of destroyer, isn't it? Zumwalt?
I have no idea. I'm just reading
cool
stuff.
Cool name.
I just work here.
Okay, anyway, if you want to get an ad-free version of the show, you can get that also as a patron. A little bonus for patron. Maybe we will answer your questions. Wink, wink, nod, nod. You can go to patreon.com/woodtalk and sign up to become that patron that we love you all so much about and stuff.
Oh, speaking of Patreon, we decided today to get our questions 100% from Patreon. And that's
what I was alluding to.
Yeah.
Catch that?
Way
That
to
was
catch
sneaky.
on. Yeah.
Well, I just started paying attention.
That's really what
the most opportune time to pay attention.
So the cool thing is we have a bunch of questions from there, and I think we're actually going to do a little bonus show today, maybe answering the rest of the questions. Maybe.
Now we got to do it, Marc.
Maybe.
God, way to go.
We just had a technical problem, so it just depends on where my mood goes from here. We'll see. But we'll have
tell people that. It was completely seamless.
Oh, sorry. No, there's nothing else that might give it away.
Nothing changed. What are you talking about?
Nope. All right, let's get to what's on the bench, because I got a workbench and there's something on it. And
is it not draining onto your floor anymore?
The leak has stopped, thankfully.
Nice.
The floor stopped it, which was nice. So I did finally get through the whole epoxy thing. I can't remember how far I had gotten into it last time.
I think I just poured it.
Okay, so I didn't talk about pour number 2. yet?
I don't think
No.
so. No.
Okay. So what I wound up doing was, I think I alluded last time to the fact that the epoxy kind of seeping out did the job of sealing everything, which is something that I should have done ahead of time. And I was able to kind of just put everything right back after it dried and retape it, and it worked because now everything was sealed up. So it took me a couple of days to get through it and to pour all the different sections, and I'm being cautious as I'm doing it and having buckets right there just in case something decides to go on me. And
For your
thankfully,
tears.
yeah, well, if it wasn't filled with epoxy, definitely would be filled with the tears. And I got it done. So the thing's sitting on the workbench right now. It's got like 2 coats of finish on it. Client I got to the point where it was like freshly sanded, sent them a picture, and they wanted to see if we could make the wood darker. And I immediately was like, this is why I don't like working for clients. Because that wasn't part of the original discussion, stain. But it is Western red cedar. You could have some issues with staining that just in terms of like blotch and things like that.
Well, yeah, especially now it's like coated in epoxy in random places too.
Yeah, yeah. And you also have this thing that happens with, regular people and color. And everybody, like, they have to see it in person. Even if they judge a sample, that doesn't mean that they're going to love it when it's across the entire thing. It's like looking at a swatch on the wall. A paint color is not, you don't really know what it's going to look like until it's on the damn wall.
Yep,
So,
I know that too well.
right? So
This kitchen project, 100%. I'm with you.
yeah. So it's not a knock against these people. They are great people, super, super awesome people. But, they naturally wanted to know what would that look like with a darker color. So I made a bunch of swatches. The reality is I don't have a whole lot of stain in the shop anymore. I'm kind of scrounging together what I have, but immediately all my plans for what I was going to do for the top coat are now potentially changing because depending on what color they choose and what product was put on to make that color, could downstream impact the top coat that's going on there and the number of days I'm investing in this process. So I started to get a little bit stressed out about it. Thankfully, they came, they looked, they saw the different colors, and they liked the Armor Seal clear coat the best.
Yes, you're like,
Right? And I'm like, thank you. Just made my life so much easier. I'm comfortable with that. It looks good. I don't have to charge them any more for it because it's something I already have in the shop, no problem at all. And I think they're going to be happy with it. So I'm going to, at least temporarily for now, claim victory. And I'm super excited to get this into their home. It's pretty cool.
I still can't believe you did this.
I have a client that he was so excited because it was a similar situation on a larger scale, but he's like, so I discovered I could just take a picture of it and I could throw it in Photoshop and use a series of like hue saturation overlays to change the color. Yeah, and you can. I was just like, okay, cool. So if they choose one of those treatments, how do you plan to actually do that in real life?
Right. Yeah.
Now you've got to go like mix a bunch of stains and get the color that you created by sliding little things back and forth in Photoshop. And he kind of looked at me and he's like, damn it, I hate you. And like walked out of my office. I was like,
Jeez.
sorry. I mean,
I think it'd be one thing if the people just aren't picky and it's like, okay, do you want it to be light brown, medium brown, or dark brown? Here's the 3 options. And they're not picky, you can get away with that. But most normal people who are paying for a job to be done are going to be a little bit pickier than that.
yeah, sure.
And it's tough to anticipate. It's one thing I learned, especially when when I worked in the refinishing shop for that other dude's shop. We did so many client jobs day to day that I would see this happen in real time, us just do a thing that we thought was what the customer asked for. Then they come in and they go, oh, I don't like the way that looks at all. Like I remember one time specifically, a gloss top coat over mahogany, and we tried to encourage him to let us do a pour fill. Because if you put gloss on an open poured like wood like that, you see all those little pockets and it just looks weird. So if you don't fill the pores, it doesn't look very good. Didn't take our word for it. So we did the job, got it fully coated, comes in and he's like, oh, I don't like the way that looks. It's like, duh, yeah, we know. So, but yeah, anticipating what clients specifically are looking for. If people listening to the show that do this for a living, they know exactly what we're talking about. So anyway, that's enough for me. Matt, what do you got going on?
I have been fixing things. That's kind of where I'm at in my life right now. Is just putting all the things I've been putting off repairing or fixing. I've been just putting my nose to the grindstone, just getting it done. I rewired my winch a few weeks ago. That was on the list of things to do because all the cables had like corroded and deteriorated, so the winch wouldn't really pull very much. So I replaced all the cables, upsized them, and I put them in a new like mounting box, a steel mounting box instead of the plastic one, which is broken as well, which is also letting water into the contactor thing. So I'm like, okay, let's just do this. Get that done.
Nice.
Behind me. And then, and during the process of doing that, my garage door spring broke. So then I'm like, great, now I got to replace this too. So I did that.
Hey, let me ask you, how was that? I always hear that's a job the average DIYer, not that you're the average, you're like a little bit above average.
Below average, yes.
Super DIYer. That's what I'm going to say.
But yeah, I've always heard that that's not a task you want to try yourself. How was it?
It's easy.
Yeah.
Putting it all back up there is easy. Tensioning the spring, also easy, but scary. So it's kind of like your own comfort level of, can I keep my face away from these tensioning rods in case they like let go?
If they go.
Because I'm not going to have teeth anymore.
Okay.
That's kind of where it is. So you have to be like, don't try this if you're not comfortable, obviously. But take your time. Make sure when you like putting the rods in, they're fully seated and they're all the way in there. Or spend the $100 or whatever and get one of those automatic winder things you can do with a drill. And then you don't have to really think about, am I going to knock my teeth out with these rods?
What about like a lathe face shield? Maybe
You
as
should
an
probably.
in-between solution.
I would highly recommend doing that. I didn't have one, so I just wore safety glasses. And
Attaboy.
I did it off to the side,
Well,
so if I was like, out of the
considering-
kickback zone.
I mean, I never wear the face shield when I'm at the lathe, so it just seems like I should probably, maybe I have a use for it finally.
Yeah, at least you've got one. So,
But like the technical aspect of doing it, super easy.
huh.
I didn't know anything about garage doors until Donovan and I installed the one on the barn. So I'm like, oh, this is actually not that complicated. It's just like put it all together the way it's supposed to go together.
Yeah.
On the tensioning rod is just up there, and they got set screws for the pulleys. So you got to make sure the cables are engaged in the pulleys, and then the spring is mounted in the middle to the bracket that goes to the wall, and then you just turn the spring until it's tensioned what you think is enough, or if you have one already, you know how many turns are on there already. You just kind of go the same number of turns.
Yeah.
You engage the set screws on the spring, and like carefully pull the bar out, and then the whole thing is tensioned. And you just test the door and you see kind of like if it has enough. Otherwise, you just loosen the set screws again carefully,
Yeah.
give it some more, and then try it again. So it's 100% your comfort level. Do you even think this is something you want to even put your body near?
Put me in the
that's where
camp
it
of
is.
people who does not want to do it.
Which is fine.
I'm calling
that's
someone.
fine.
I'm calling
can-
someone every time.
I don't really mind doing it. I can do it in the afternoon, like in the same afternoon. Like I went to the store,
Yeah.
got a new spring, came back, threw it in. I was probably in the car longer than I was fixing the door.
Yeah. You're way more adventurous than I am.
A score of 1 on the technical scale and 9 on the underpants cleanliness scale.
Yes, but you can say that about a lot of things that we do too. Like
true.
using the table saw. If you ever like, oh, I want feeling a
Riding-
little crazy, I want to take
riding
a
a
ride
bike to
knife
work.
out and just go for a little bit of a joyride on my table saw.
Yeah.
There's that. I don't
see
know. Like, there's a scale of like comfort level of risk, I guess, that we all do.
Isn't that in woodworking in general too?
That's
right?
kind
Like,
that's what I'm saying. There's
Yeah.
that certain
Hell,
level of
that's Marc commuting to his shop every morning.
we just talked about that before the show about how like I wasn't that scared about commuting to work until the comments came in and informed me that I should be scared.
Yeah. He's very scared.
You should have like a normal,
works.
rational amount of fear of what you're doing with these dangerous things. Like, we've
Yeah.
always talked about the safety aspect of things, but that's just like that level of like comfort that you have with something. And are you thinking about what the risks are and what can go wrong? So you're mitigating those risks the whole way along the way, the whole way along the road down to wherever you want to go with whatever project you're working on. 'Cause some people might be too scared of the table saw, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I use it every day.
I think there's a big difference between fear and the knowledgeable respect that comes from like understanding how it works, where it can go wrong, and taking precautions to make sure it doesn't go wrong. So the very big difference. It's fear that gets people hurt because they're scared of what they don't understand.
The scariest thing for me to see is someone who's new to a table saw using safety devices. It is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's so true.
They're
oh my
so
God,
scared
right.
of the saw, and the safety things. Like I gotta keep my hands away. I gotta keep it. I'm like, you're
right.
The not to hate on the grippers, but the people who use the grippers so much, and I see them, they start fitting it through, they lift the gripper up and come back and continue the cut. The workpiece is literally sitting there in the saw with nothing holding it.
Yeah, just vibrating back and
I'm
forth.
like, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you won't. Maybe you get lucky because you had that push block in your hand, and the push block gets hit on your hand or something, but it's just bad. I'm like, these are bad habits because you're so worried about being safe, but you don't understand what you're actually doing, and what you're doing is not safe, why it's not safe.
Yeah. Well, we've also entered into a time where people are seeing these products as solutions to problems before they've truly encountered the problem.
Yeah.
Right? So I need a micro jig gripper. I saw Steve Ramsey use it. That's what I'm going to use at my table saw. But you have yet to really experience all of the things that happen during a simple table saw cut and where the gripper excels. But one of the keys, I love micro jig. I love the gripper. It's not good for every table saw cut. I would never use it for every table saw cut. But there are things that it can do that other push sticks cannot do. Right. But you're told that you need to use this on every cut. And that's when you start doing silly things like lifting it and things you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. Or like
tricky.
The other one that's like, they have like they're cutting like a really wide piece or like a bigger, like a piece of plywood, like a 12 by 12 square off of a piece of plywood or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're using a push stick and a gripper. I'm like, you have no control. Just use your hand. Your hand's so far from the blade. Just
You've got this huge sheet.
Just use your hand. It's fine. But because then like this is again the stepping through the cuts, like the pausing in the middle. And the other one too that I've noticed too is like I can't get this board to not burn as I'm cutting it. And it's like in a video and you're watching them work. They keep pausing. They're pausing to move their push stick or their push block or whatever. I'm like, that you need to keep it moving.
If I go slower, it won't burn.
This feels like a great subtopic we could really get into.
I think
this is the most excited I've seen Matt in a while. He's really passionate.
Yeah, keep going.
There are certain things that have a little bit of a, I don't know, things that
I like it
to like a little extent. I spend too much time online. way too much time online.
There it is.
That's at the heart of the problem.
Yeah.
Well, that was great, Matt.
We need to suck Matt into the priority bike cult now, Marc.
We do. I've seen his old bike. He's posted some stuff with that. You need a new one.
Yeah,
it's my mother-in-law's bike. All right.
Okay. You made my case for me.
You're just wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we should swiftly move on now.
Okay.
Fortunately, he has a really big sawmill, so
he
can hang on to some credibility.
Yeah, there's no doubt. No doubt with his credibility.
Well, speaking of Marc saying I'm just going to pay somebody to do it, I've needed a new deck for a while. I'm pretty certain that the deck on the back of my house is the original 1966 pressure treated pine deck. And the great part is I work for a company that sells hundreds of thousands of feet of decking a day, basically. The problem is that I have one of those ground floor decks, like 6 inches off the lawn type decks.
Oh, okay. Not a raised. Okay.
Yeah. Which by itself would be okay, but because there is a concrete slab integrated into the deck, so when you come down the stairs from my kitchen, there is a pad there. And I don't know, in the 60s, they decided to be funky. So there's like this oblique angle that the pad runs across the deck. And then the deck is, butted into that with a bunch of, angled cuts on one end. And kind of looks cool. And a long time ago, somebody put like a concrete stain down. So at least it's not just like fresh poured concrete. Mm-hmm. But the top of the deck has to be level with the top of the concrete pad. I suppose I could integrate a step or something into it, but honestly, that's just a massive tripping hazard because the pad at the bottom of the stairs is not big enough to really say, like you're taking like half a step and then stepping up. So
not like a full landing or something.
Yeah. And I also could anticipate that being a place to hold water if I so whatever. So I've had a deck that essentially has it's been sitting on sleepers, 6x6 sleepers that have been laid into probably pea gravel in the 60s. And I was like, okay, I know what I'm getting into. Let's at least open it up. Let's start taking the decking boards off. And the fact that the decking boards are nailed to the sleepers. Nice. 50 some years ago, longer than that, 60 years ago. And trying to get those nails out I swear they used like wrought nails. Like the only way to get a wrought nail out of a board is to burn it out, you know? So, but the good news is the decking boards on top of it pretty much come off of the nails with a sharp yank because it's pressure treated pine that's so old. So I was able to get a few of the boards off just to see that there are sleepers underneath, but also just to see the sheer volume of detritus that's under this, that's worked its way through, you know, leaves, literal like vermin nests and things like that. And I don't have a mouse problem in the house. I've fortunately taken care of that and all that, but there's just a lot of crap down here. I'm probably going to call an archaeologist, you know, just to make sure that there's nothing of value down there. But I'm quickly realizing that this is not a deck build. This is going to be wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow load of pea gravel and like one of those cool tamping type things to pound it all down. And I'm thinking, you know, if I were Matt, I would just go rent one of these things and bring it back because I've got a telehandler and a forklift to move it in place. But meanwhile, like I just have a gate to access my backyard. You can't drive a truck back here.
You can rent a little skid steer like I have, and a tamper, and a whole. You can get a whole setup. You get a whole landscape trailer full of stuff.
This is where I feel like I've earned the right as a 50-year-old man now to say, you know what, just gotta call somebody.
That's fine.
So
Sometimes that's best.
But here's the other thing. Trying to find someone to come do that and then not do the deck is really hard. They want to do the whole job. And I can't say that I blame them because they're going to make, you know, a better margin. And I'm like, okay, well, you could come install the deck, but I'll supply the material. And they're like, well, what now? Like, how's that going to work? I'm like, no, seriously. I work for, like, you probably buy material from me. When you buy deck material, you're probably buying from me. And they're totally weirded out by that. So I can't really find somebody to do this. So I don't know. Maybe I'll channel my inner Matt Cremona and go rent some heavy machinery. And what do you even call those things? A compactor? If I go in and call it a tampy thingy, I don't know whether that will work.
What is that called? I would be like, you guys got one of them tamping machines?
Yeah.
There's different styles of plate. It's a plate compactor. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, probably. I mean, there's got to be a solution for this. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be
the jumping jack kangaroo one. There's like a plate compactor.
Yeah, vibratory compaction tamper.
There's that.
Okay, fair enough.
Go look for those.
I mean, I've got to dig out all of the stuff that's there. I don't think I can salvage. I don't even know that they used gravel at one point because it's just a murky, muddy mess right now. Getting one of the 6x6 sleepers out took a lot of prying and a very long pry bar. I mean, the suction of this thing in the dirt, and of course, you know, it's starting to come apart the more prying. So I had to I actually got my snow shovel to spread out the force a little bit, and then, you know, put a big bar through the handle of the snow shovel and was trying to lift this thing out. So I managed to get one of the sleepers out, but it's quickly
and a snow shovel. That's
exactly.
That's great.
Right? So yeah, it's very quickly becoming damn it, why didn't I just call someone? So yeah, that's where I am.
Nice. You got to find yourself the local do-it-all kind of guys that you could just call. Like we have a couple of guys, father-son team, just big, strong guys. They do demo. They demoed my mom's deck. They're doing a demo for us this weekend on something. They helped me move my laser to get it onto the stand. Like
nice.
They're available to just do any kind of like that manual labor. Really good stuff. But you got to find people that actually
do some digging
that you trust.
The other side of this is part of me does want to do a little bit of filming on the actual deck board install because I'm going to use some fancy new materials for it. And I mean, that would be just install guides and things like that for the day job. So like, I kind of don't want to give that part over, but if I could have somebody come out, prepare the ground, put the sleepers, level the sleepers, get, you know, all that stuff in place, because it's relatively simple from that perspective. Once the sleepers are in place, maybe throw a fascia around it, or some sort of ventilated fascia around it to get a little bit of airflow under this thing. I'd love it. And then I could just come in with some deck screws and an impact driver and go to town.
There you go.
Camera.
Yeah,
nice.
Exactly.
All right, let's move into kickback because we got some. You guys remember we were talking about someone visiting, I think Steve Goodlow was going to Japan and wanted some recommendations. So we actually did get an email here. Can someone else read that? Because I gotta go do something real quick.
Sure, I'll take it. Why not? That's Marc's code for he has to go to the bathroom. How much you want to bet? So this is from Steve Goldberg for feedback for Steve Goodlow. Says, I traveled to Japan this past fall, and it was a phenomenal experience, woodworking related and otherwise. My girlfriend, who taught English in Japan for over a decade, planned most of the trip and included the Takanaka Carpentry Museum in Kobe, as was mentioned on the show. It's well worth a visit for anyone who's interested in traditional Japanese hand tools, joinery, and construction. But I found it most impressive for its explanations of the timber frame type joinery that I would see in templates and buildings later on in the trip. Additionally, we went to the Ritsuren Garden and the Takamatsu, as it's my girlfriend's favorite garden. My mind was blown when I saw the sign for the George Nakashima exhibit upstairs in one of the buildings. They had a giant slab table with 8 or so konoid chairs and another small table. The garden itself is pretty incredible too. I love that. Nice. Yeah. Lastly, I found a shop called Inoue Hamono in Tokyo. It's a tiny shop packed full of Japanese hand tools. The family/owners were friendly and helpful, and I brought a dovetail chisel back to America that I just realized I've yet to set up. Thanks for not quitting, Steve. If I can just quickly tack onto this, that was the feedback I got from a couple of folks in the hand tool school. Literally, like, do a Yellow Pages or Google search for local craftsmen, craftspeople, and find their shops. And if you go in and introduce yourself, I'm a woodworker for America, a lot of times they're really very friendly and want to talk to you and ask you as much questions. The one thing was, most of these guys who have storefronts, they have little small items for sale. Buy something, buy a box, buy a trinket or something like that you're there. But they're incredibly giving of their time. I mean, I've heard that enough about, the Japanese people in general. Find some local shops, go patronize them, but then also, like, you get to tour the tools and see what they're doing. And
sweet.
Yeah. So that was nice to see him back that up with the local guy in Tokyo.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. Thanks for that, Steve. Hey, do you guys know who else hopes to one day take a trip to Japan?
Oh boy. It's like we never change sponsors.
Woodcraft, of course.
Of course. Why not learn about Japanese joinery?
They actually have some Japanese tools at Woodcraft. They've got I know they have some beautiful Japanese chisels. Yep, put your gear on, you guys. I got my mug.
I just tried to take a drink and I was blocking the logo as I took a drink. So sorry.
Yeah, don't do that. Call yourself a professional.
I know. I feel like I need to smile.
Matt's going for a hobo chic right now. That's nice. I love it. All right. Well, look, Woodcraft is actually looking out for you guys. Do you know how? They're thinking about you and the listeners. Do you know how?
They're providing mugs to every 4th customer in the store.
That would be cool, but I don't think so. They honestly want to make sure that you guys know what to expect when it comes to all this tariff debacle that's going on right now.
I feel like we need a soundbite. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Like it, and I'm sure a lot of people are sick of talking about it or sick of hearing about it. But if you are in the market for some kind of a large power tool, a very large purchase, this is probably something you want to pay attention to. And I think it's important to know when it's going to impact pricing. So this is, what did you do, Matt? I was looking at my script and I didn't see you get your mug on your thingy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Accessorizing.
Mug on your thingy, by the way. If you guys aren't watching, you probably want to go get clarification on what I meant by that.
No, we're not. Whatever.
Yeah. So anyway, this is definitely something you want to pay attention to if you got one of these purchases coming up soon. We definitely are not trying to get into politics. That's never something we want to do on this show. This is an economic sort of problem. I don't think we can, it's hard to separate the two, especially these days, but we're going to stay into giving you some information. And I think the dates, knowing when these things are going to be changing, it's very important. So Woodcraft wants you to know that. JPW, you guys know them, right? That's Jet, Powermatic, big brands. June 15th. Is currently the date that's set for a price increase. By the way, these are fluid because, of course, this whole situation has been very fluid. So this is to date the best information that we have. Laguna is on July 1st. Sawstop sometime mid-July, right? this whole thing sucks, but it's nice to just at least have a little bit of information on when these things are going to happen. They're really trying to be as transparent as possible. They'll be sending out emails about this in the future. Bottom line is prices are going up. Woodcraft didn't set the prices, so don't shoot the messenger. So if you're in the market or thinking about a major power tool purchase, it probably behooves you to do it pretty soon. And ideally, you're going to go team green when you do it and purchase from Woodcraft, either from your local store or online at woodcraft.com. In fact, here's one better. Here's something you can do. When you go to woodcraft.com, you're going to get a little pop-up that's offering you a discount for signing up for their newsletter. Go ahead and do it because you can save 10% on your first order. Of course, this is one of those discounts where there's a whole bunch of exclusions for different brands, so look at that fine print. But a discount is a discount. 10% is great. So sign up for their newsletter, head over there. You're going to be happy that you did. I don't know how much you guys want to talk about the tariff thing. I know, Shannon, you've got a little bit more industry perspective on this. I feel lucky that right now I don't have a power tool purchase in my future that I've been thinking about, so I can kind of like lay low and see where the dust settles on this. But you have any thoughts?
I mean, forget about power tools. Let's talk lumber.
Oh, let's talk lumber. What's going to happen?
That's going to affect a lot. I mean, there's so much exotic lumber on our market to the point where we don't even necessarily think about it exotic anymore. It's so ubiquitous that we're able to go to a Woodcraft or our local lumberyard and pick up a mahogany type board. Or, I mean, how much Purple Heart's everywhere. As much as it drives me crazy, there's Purple Heart everywhere. Well, guess what? That's not grown in the USA, and there are some pretty honking tariffs on some of these countries that I feel like it's kind of like, well, we're not really doing a whole lot with them, so let's just slap a big tariff on it, and we don't have to worry about that. Well, some of that is directly affecting our lumber. So yeah, all of us have a lumber purchase in our future. Well, not Matt.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But somewhere you're probably going to have to buy lumber.
I don't know, some big material moving thing that you're in your future. You got, or you have everything you need.
I think I have. I mean, I'm sure I don't, but I don't know.
You'll find a reason to buy something.
I don't think I need to find a reason. More like find the money to buy the things.
Yeah. Find a space to put it.
Hey, I don't know anything about like that sort of industrial moving forklifts, skid steers, all that stuff. Is most of that stuff made overseas, or does anyone make that in the States anymore?
My skid steer is made in Iowa, so that is that. I think
most of it is made domestically, but they're having prices increase as well because they have some pieces that, as a manufacturer, are coming from places abroad.
Most of the stuff I have is used, though, so you're sort of precluded from that, but at the same time, it just brings the used prices up with the new prices going up too.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I just bought a new air conditioning unit, and I specifically bought an American-made unit because the price difference from the unit that I was replacing, if I stayed in that brand, it would have been significantly more expensive to buy that for a lower quality. So I actually got a much nicer AC unit. Still, I paid through the nose for the coolant because that's still manufactured abroad.
Okay.
A significant percentage increase for the coolant alone because of that, the tariff that was already in place on that. That's a Chinese
Interesting. Thing. Okay. Yeah. Oof. All right. Well, it's messy business. You guys know it. We don't have to tell you that. We're not going to dwell on this too long. But thought it was very interesting. And again, if you are in the mood to go purchase something and you want to save a few bucks, it's I personally don't love when like tool companies who does this? Festool is known for their like yearly sale. That's not actually a sale because they're just raising their prices and letting you know, hey, you still got time to get that low price. I don't like that tactic. I get it. I don't have to love it though. This is kind of not that. This is something that's happening whether we like it or not, kind of across the board because most of this stuff is made overseas. So honestly, just the FYI kind of public service thing if you're in the market.
And I think kudos to Woodcraft. They're certainly not the only ones doing it, but there's a lot of manufacturers being very transparent about this. This is not them making more money off of you. Like this is them having to pay more money to manufacture or to import this product. They're not keeping that money. Now there may be some unethical companies out there who are choosing to, we're paying an extra 15%, so let's raise prices 20%. For the most part, I'm seeing most of the companies being very transparent about this. This is what it cost before. here is the tariff, here's what it costs after. And I think that's good on them for doing that.
I wonder if, like, depending on how this all hashes out, because nobody really knows what's going to happen here, if we're going to do like the post-COVID situation where prices went up and then a lot of the companies just kept them up. We saw this like in the bike industry, right? Shannon, we had a lot of bike price increases that just kind of never went back down, like even when there was no more supply chain issues. So that would suck. Okay, well, we have some questions. And once again, these are questions sourced from Patreon. That's patreon.com/woodtalk if you want to go help us out. And maybe we're going to do this more in the future. I like this. I like getting the questions from there because our inbox is messy, very, very messy.
I want to ignore the inbox.
So much of it is like, it's all just like stuff for interviewing people that would have no reason to interview, and press releases, and I don't know why that.
Nor have we ever interviewed anybody on this show.
No, I don't know why that stuff is like it's attracted to our WoodTalk account. I don't know why. Okay, anyway, Drew Timothy wrote in. He says, recently I was adding breadboard ends to a figured cherry desktop. Due to the size of the project, I used a router and a straight edge to cut the tenons. During and after the cut, I experienced some strange tear out. I'm wondering if this is something I did incorrectly, or is it the nature of figured cherry? Brand new straight-sided router bit. And he sent a picture. I guess, Shannon, if you don't mind, maybe throw that picture up in the notes when the time comes. First of all, two red flags here. One, figured. Anytime you're dealing with figured wood, you do have grain kind of running off in different directions, maybe unpredictable directions. When I look at the picture, though, I don't necessarily see a whole lot of figured cherry in that picture. It doesn't look like and if it is figured, it might, it's just cherry, which blotches, which sometimes can be confused with figure. And I guess what do we say? One man's blotch is another man's figure, something like that. Anyway, point is, I think the bit can be the problem. I can't tell you the last time I've done any kind of straight line routing with a straight blade bit. I am 100% on spiral configuration bits, whether it's upcut, downcut, compression, whatever. The results are just always so much better, so much cleaner. It is so worth it to save up a few more bucks and go and get, a good white side spiral bit instead of these straight bits. They just, in every possible way, I can't think of you guys think of any situation other than saving a few dollars where a straight bit in the classic straight blade configuration is going to be better than a spiral.
I mean,
I can't think of anything.
I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I used to get those ones because that's what I could afford. And then one time I finally bought a spiral bit. Doesn't matter what configuration it is. Yeah. It's a shear cut now instead of this like straight on blunt cut thing. And
I mean, the force of moving that bit was significantly less, which always that was the part that always freaked me out with, especially with a handheld router. If I had to put a lot of effort into moving it, I was like, I got to back that cut out because it's going to stutter because you're putting so much force behind it. And the minute I switched to like a solid carbide spiral bit, it was night and day. Yeah. Listen to me.
Look at you. What's your power tool advice? I love it.
Who am I? What just happened?
You had a flashback. 15 years ago. You remember all this stuff.
It's a dark time in my life.
Yeah. Try not to remember it. Well, the other thing is when you're doing what Shannon was mentioning and you're getting kind of stuck and you're slowing down, those stutters and stalls are also a great time for burning. And it's a great time to heat up that metal so that you actually lose the sharpness of the bit. And the bit is going to be in the garbage can pretty soon. All around, if it's possible, chuck that bit, chuck that zero and upgrade to a hero and get yourself a spiral bit. You're going to be so much happier.
Wow. That was well done.
Good.
Well done.
That was something.
Thanks. Nice. All right. You're up, Shannon.
I was just looking at my Woodcraft router plane to try to get my hand tool cred back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I have one of those too. I mean,
yeah, fair enough. All right.
Come on.
Put that over there. This is from Misha. He says, time is short in the shop and I want to focus on building things, not prepping stock. I make chairs, occasional box-like thing, but most of my projects are less than 3 feet in length and 6 to 12 inches in width. We'll ignore the chair seats for this question. That would work. So I'm considering getting a planer, but wondering about removing cup twist from the board faces. So basically, what Misha's saying is, I don't have a joiner. I want to get a planer. can I actually save time of it on the joiner? And he pulls out one of the mini jigs that you see that like level or stabilize the board to allow you to run it, a planer sled, basically. Yeah. So my opinion on this is, I will always say the fastest way to flatten a board is with a saw. And actually, there's this guy named the Wood Whisperer that just very recently did a video on a bike helmet coat rack. And there was a couple of really good tips in there because he was using roughs on boards and knocking them down in size at the bandsaw and the chop saw. And there were a couple of interesting techniques on how to use basically a roughs on board with massive cup or twist or something like that and do it safely without kickback. So even a power tool wonk like Marc Spagnolo recognizes that you can save stock by cutting a board to a smaller size before you run it over the joiner or run it through the planer.
Even that moron knows that.
Yeah, right? But seriously, if you guys haven't seen it, Marc, that was actually a really good video. Now, I have to say, it's been a long time since I've actually watched one of your videos, but, you had bike helmet and laser, and I had to watch it.
Okay, well, thanks.
But, yeah, it was a good video.
We should, compliment each other more often. I feel good for Marc right now. Like, even the good vibes are making it over to me.
I feel real good about myself today.
Yeah, it's awesome.
My whole perspective just changed.
It's like you actually know what you're talking about or something.
What do you know? Anyway, back to Misha's question. So since he's got projects that are less than 3 feet in length, I mean, you can imagine if I chop a board down to say 3.5 feet, you give yourself some room to play with, most of the bow is going to be gone from that board. Now, you're still going to have cup, of course, but ultimately cup is kind of self-stabilizing. Now, to be fair, certain boards, certain thicknesses, if there's a lot of cup, the feed rollers can potentially press out some of that cup. So you want to make sure that that's not happening. But just by cutting that board down, and then the next question is, well, what's the width of the part that you're trying to make? To keep with Marc's example, he was making these little piano key type things. And, you could joint that entire cupped piece of white oak, or you could slice it into little 2-inch wide planks, and there's no cup anymore at that point. So Misha, I know, is a hand tooler. He's a hand tool school member. He's got hand saws. Even if you don't want to use a hand saw, grab yourself a jigsaw to knock down rough stock, to possibly rip rough stock. I think he has a bandsaw, if I remember correctly. Yeah, if not, a jigsaw. Did he say that?
Yeah, 10-inch.
Yeah, I mean, he's a chair maker. They mostly have, So again, if you can cross-cut those boards into shorter lengths and then if possible, prep your stock closer to your part sizes, I don't think you need a jig at all to run it through the planer. At that point, you're getting very little movement on the bed. And if you are getting movement on the bed, Misha knows how to use a hand plane. I mean, I've got a video out there about stock prep for the planer. What do they call it? The hybrid milling method or something like that. Get yourself a heavy set jack plane, knock down those corners so it doesn't have to be flat-ish. It just has to not rock on the planer bed. It doesn't have to be pretty in the slightest. You can create tear out with your poorly sharpened jack plane on the underside. All you got to do is get it to not rock on the planer and run it through. Yeah, first power tool I sold was my joiner. And I stayed in power tools for probably a year after that. I just didn't see the point of it anymore. I'm not going to say there's not a point. Back off, everybody, before you start sending in emails. But yeah, I mean, if you've got a small shop, if you're not ready to launch into the whole joiner and planer method, and I'm not going to say go buy one of those hybrid machines that you can flip you around and all that stuff. Just get a planer. And I don't think you need to really deal with the jig. Have either of you guys used that planer sled idea in the past?
I've done it manually with shims, hot glue, and wedges. I've never built a dedicated thing, but if you do a lot of this, especially the one that we linked to, let's make sure we put that in the notes too, because that's a really nice one.
Yeah, this is a super crazy jig.
Yeah.
And let's be fair, assess what you're building. Like if you're a slab table builder, then you're going to try to maintain that slab. You're not going to cross cut that slab. You're not going to rip that slab. You've got to keep that board as long and as wide as possible. But I see this time and time again. People are straight from the lumber rack onto the joiner. And then they're like, you see them over at the table saw with the chopping the boards and cross-cutting it and stuff. And it's like, yes, I recognize that a rough sawn board on a table saw is a recipe for kickback. and generally on a miter saw, it can be a recipe for kickback, which is why I complimented Marc because he had a solution for that. But yeah, that's also where hand saws are great additions to your shop.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot more of that lately. I did a video for Instagram, I guess, that was like me prepping parts for stools, a chair-like item. And they were all small parts. And the guy was like, well, I would just have like kept everything together and milled it that way to make it faster. I had like 80 parts to do. And so, well, first of all, I had to keep my brain wrapped around how many of each part I had to make sure I didn't screw that up. But I wanted to maintain thickness and I wanted to get as much material out of it as possible. So it's more work in the sense that I'm, cutting it into smaller pieces, but then each piece was much easier to retain its thickness. And in some cases, that just makes so much more sense to do it that way.
And honestly, the more time you spend removing cup, the more it's probably going to cup on you later. The more wood you remove to flatten it, the more that unstable that board is. So if you can saw it, and not to mention, when you're ripping a board, you're relieving tension, especially in a species like oak.
Yeah.
So all those little rips like pulled all that tension out. So then once you did mill it, they probably didn't move at all. Well, of course they didn't because they were so small. But yeah, there's so many reasons to do it that way, I think.
Yeah. It's not always appropriate, but generally speaking, the closer you can get to your final dimension while being rough and then still having a chance to mill it, the more you're going to have, stability and control over what it does. It's just not going to move very much after that point, and you get more material in the final piece, generally. It's just maybe not the most efficient on time. Anyway. All right, Matt. What you got?
All right. This is from Steve, a patron. I have...
All right.
I don't know why I find that funny.
That was good.
I don't know, because I was saying something seriously and
Probably, yeah.
That is funny.
Yeah.
So out of
Very
character.
funny.
Yeah, well, I was trying to be you, whatever. Okay. I'm going to grab my handsaw and make a board flat
Yeah.
Like you do.
by resawing it.
Yeah.
All right. Steve says, I have a decent stack of butternut, rough cut lumber that was cut down on my grandfather's farm and has been air drying for over 20 years. My dad was supposed to build furniture with it, but has unfortunately passed away. So this lumber has been passed down to me and holds sentimental value. Butternut is currently illegal to cut down where I'm located in Ontario, Canada, due to it being on the endangered species list for the last couple of decades. This lumber has a bunch of bug holes, which adds a lot of character that I love, but I also don't see much more activity. My question is, should I get it kiln dried to make sure everything is dead? Also, I have heard you talk about air-dried walnut looking superior to kiln dried. Does this apply to butternut since it's walnut's blonde cousin?
I've got a blonde cousin.
Thank you, Marc.
Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt. Go on.
You know what? Just keep derailing everything. That's fantastic.
Somebody has to.
Oh, man. So,
Is there anything else you'd like to add about your blonde cousin?
yeah,
or
everything else,
just-
that's it. There we go.
They live in Pennsylvania now.
Okay, good.
We used to live closer to each other though when we were kids.
Yeah. Maybe I'll look him or her up.
Okay.
Just up the road.
His name's Marc with a K,
Oh,
Okay.
of course.
which is
I hate him
of course
already.
it is.
right. Can't trust a person like that.
Stupid.
All right, Matt.
Okay.
Matt, just answer the question, man. What are you
Seriously,
doing?
what are you
All
doing?
right.
We're
I
trying to
don't
fill
know.
your dead space, Matt. Come on.
I'm well aware of what you're trying to do, but also it's ridiculous, and then I can't even think because it's just you guys are just such amazing comedic partners in comedy.
Okay, I'm stopping. Go ahead.
All right, I don't really know so much about butternut and how it looks as far as kiln versus air dried, but I wanted to.
No, the answer is no to
Is this-
that.
okay, well, I don't. Great. I've only seen air dried. I don't think I've seen.
The color's pretty much the same. So no, you're not going to get because it is the blonde walnut.
Yeah.
It's white walnut. So it doesn't have like all the greens and the grays and the chocolatey goodness of air dried walnut. It's pretty much the same kiln dried as it is air dried.
Well, that leads me back to the next thing. I guess the question of do you need to get it kiln dried or not? So first off, I want to just kind of make one clarification for you. At this point, you're probably not necessarily needing it to be actually kiln dried. You're wanting it to be sterilized. You don't necessarily need it to go through a full kiln drying cycle because it's been air drying for 20 years, unless you had it out in a damp barn somewhere and it's sitting at like 14% and you want to get that moisture content down. I just want to make that distinction between kiln drying and sterilizing, because you can do either one independently a lot of times. Some kiln drying schedules don't include sterilizing, or you're using a kiln that can't get high enough in consistent temperatures to actually do a proper sterilization cycle. That is most commonly like a solar kiln. Those you typically can't reliably sterilize with one of those.
I can't hold the temperature that long because of the sunset.
It's kind of weird how that
Damn
works.
it! Blame the sun! Damn you!
Why can't this be Tatooine? All right.
Nice. For those of you who don't know, that's Matt's second Tatooine reference.
Yeah, what's up with
First
that?
was
man?
off
Why it was
camera.
fresh in my mind.
Oh, is it May the 4th? No, it's not.
Well, I missed it, but you know,
It's still on your mind.
we're still here mentally.
Yeah.
Whether or not you want to sterilize it or not, it's going to be up to you. I definitely recommend doing it if you have noticed any activity over any amount of time, because what you're really looking to kill are any eggs that are in there that could be dormant. And then they just happen to hatch and crawl their way out later on in the future. You probably don't want that. You know, another option you might hear of would be like a chemical treatment, like an insecticide on top of it. Boric hair is a very common one. The way that works is that it is potent to ingestion. So those eggs have to hatch and they have to burrow out to actually ingest the wood to then be killed. So I think you're kind of past that point with this too. So I would probably just go down the road of finding someone that has a sterilization chamber that actually can sterilize it for you, unless you need it to actually come down to moisture content. That's my little spiel about that, I guess.
Very nice.
Did you know that
stuff.
I didn't realize it's illegal in Canada, or at least in Ontario?
I've heard that from a few people in Ontario. A few
I
of
have
the
not
times
heard
I've
that.
had
That's
butternut,
interesting.
I'm like, yeah, I can't get that here. I can't cut it down because it's
Say it's
endangered.
so not endangered in the U.S. It's
Yeah.
freaking everywhere. It's a weed.
Interesting. Oh, okay. All right. That's it? That's all you got?
Do you want more?
I thought it was good.
No.
Good job, Matt.
No, I think you did
I think given the
passable-
circumstances, I did pretty well.
Yeah, that's good.
Given the circumstance.
What you have to deal with. Oh, man. All right. Well, Matt's got to go over to Tashi Station and pick up those power converters.
And whine about it all the way there.
Yeah, we want to remind you guys that the show is made possible by the generous contributions of our patrons as well as our friends at Woodcraft. If you want to have all of your woodworking dreams come true, you need to head to one of the local Woodcraft stores or go to woodcraft.com and do some shopping. Get in there before those tariffs get in there. That's what you got to do. If you'd like to help out and get your name read on the show, you can also get that ad-free version of the show. Head over to patreon.com/woodtalk.
And more importantly, if you have questions and you actually want us to answer them on the show, you stand a better chance of going to patreon.com/woodtalk and becoming a patron of the show, because as was evidenced by this show, that's all we read were questions from patrons. So thank you guys. It's the least we could do is answer your question instead of letting it die slowly in the inbox like everyone else. It's not that you're not submitting questions. We're just not getting to them. Because, yeah, our Gmail looks really ugly. But, you know, if you want to tempt fate, sure, send us an email. woodtalkshow@gmail.com. You never know.
Yeah.
It might come through. You never know. But, yeah, in the meantime, send us some more questions. We love it. We love to talk to you. We love to answer your questions. We love to distract Matt while he tries to answer your questions.
We go out of our way to do that very thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.